Welcome to Shopsmith's new Mark 7 presentation. My name is Doug Reid, your host. Folks, there's two major things you need to know about the Mark 7. It now has 7 major stationary power tools instead of 5. It contains the great 10-inch table saw, 12-inch disc sander, horizontal boring machine, vertical drill press, and wood lathe, but now also includes a high-quality router table and shaping capabilities. Perhaps even more importantly than that, it is a radically new way of powering power tools. The new PowerPro headstock features a computer-driven motor that maximizes efficiency and usefulness. In fact, the PowerPro produces more usable power, and that's what's important to us, than any other power tool today of similar size and weight. Your new PowerPro headstock, and you're looking here at a cutaway of the motor and the computer, not only produces more power, it uses 80% less electricity than the old Mark V system, and the speed range is now from 250 all the way up to 10,000 RPM. And this technology is unique to Shopsmith, but also unique to power tools. However, it has been proven in other applications. For example, Tesla automobiles and the big Google drives use very similar technology. Hi folks, my name is Doug Reid, and I'd like to welcome you to my shop. You know, if I look familiar to you, it may be that we've met somewhere along the line. I spent about 20 years traveling all over the U.S. showing people the wonderful Shopsmith Mark V woodworking system. And if this machine looks familiar to you, well, that's not surprising either. You know, this has been around for more than 60 years in the Mark V series. In fact, Shopsmith goes back all the way to 1947 making high-quality tools. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about why you might want to consider owning one of these for your own shop. Over the years, I have helped thousands of people get involved in owning a Shopsmith. I've had many people contact me and tell me how much they enjoyed it, how much their family enjoyed it, all the projects they've made over the years, how much money they've saved. But I've never had someone say they were sorry they got one. You're now looking at the Mark 7 in its fully extended position. You know, most table saws give you, maybe a 30 or 36-inch tabletop. Fully extended like this, your Mark 7 has a full 8.5 feet from one end to the other. And the average table saw that you buy, even a decent one, has a rip capacity of about 24 inches. Now that's the distance between the saw blade and the rip fence. Well, think about that. If you're cutting down a sheet of plywood, you certainly may want to go beyond 24 inches. With your Mark 7, the distance between the blade and the fence, as you see it set up right now, is more than 60 inches. So you're looking at one of the greatest capacity saws built for the home woodworker and home improvement enthusiast today. Now these floating tables that you see can be spread outboard as you see them. They can go inboard here to make a solid platform, or they can run front to back. So if you are ripping a long piece, you've got support for that as well. And remember, the entire system closes out to 2 by 6 feet of space when you're storing it, about the same amount of storage space as a bicycle. And your rip fence on your Shopsmith Mark 7 is a heavy-duty double locking fence. It locks both front and rear. It's very beefy. But you notice the guides here? These are designed to let us put fences and jigs very quickly and easily. And it can be used to the right of the blade, to the left of the blade, on the extension table, or on the floating tables, and it will always bring itself back in parallel to the blade. Very rugged fence. Cut here. Notice the splitter here. The splitter, also called a riving knife, is something that Fine Woodworking, in an article recently, talked about that has just been introduced to the U.S. and they said it's kind of a European invention that has been copied over here. Folks, that riving knife, which is one of the best inventions in the world, Shopsmith has been using for 25 years on their tools. So once again, this is a company and a tool that's really ahead of the pack. So folks, once again, with your Shopsmith, we're getting space saving, bigger capacity, more safety, greater accuracy, more power, all on a professional grade tool. And folks, I want to show you a great example of what I'm talking about. This is an old piece of cherry, probably 25 or 30 years old. It is very hard. If you look carefully, you'll notice that it has a twist in it. It does not lay flat on the table. It also has a bow in it on that right-hand side. With most table saws, right about now, you would see this thing burning, binding, kicking, wanting to jump at you. With your new PowerPro headstock on your Mark 7, this cuts through like a piece of clean pine. It's absolutely a great way to tell the difference side by side from this tool and the run-of-the-mill tools out there on the market today. And we can still tuck the entire system right against the wall, 2 by 6 feet of space. And folks, all you have to do is just tell the computer what kind of cut you're making. If it's a heavy-duty ripping cut, just punch a couple of buttons and the computer will do the rest for us. I want to show you cutting a piece of maple next. Maple is a great wood to work with. I really like it, but it's notorious for wanting to burn on the edges and also have problems with saw marks on it. This goes through so easily, folks. I'm just pushing it through. Now you notice I am using the red featherboard there, which I recommend. I've got one of my push sticks ready to go here. It's always good to be safe. But look how easily that cuts through there. But folks, it's not just the ease of the cut, it's the quality of the cut. When I put these two back together, what you're going to see is that does not need to be jointed off of that cut. I could put glue in that, glue that up, and it would be a perfectly fine, beautiful, jointed cut. And that's because of the quality of your new headstock on your new Shopsmith Mark7. Isn't that beautiful? And when I'm cross-cutting, folks, I've got the safety miter gauge. It gives me the grip that I need. I've got the right speed built in, provided by the computer, and the right amount of torque as well. It's going to produce beautiful cuts, as you see. Now, you can't see it in this frame, but the outfeed table is used to support the other end of this cut. So even something 8 feet long, I can trim off the end of it. Really everything you might possibly want in a great table saw. Folks, I have the Mark7 set up now for my compound miter cut. And I have the table tilted to a 21 degree to the right. I have the miter gauge set at 49 degrees to the left. And remember, I don't have to keep all those things in mind. All of these numbers come with a set of manuals that comes with your Shopsmith, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about that later. Using my gripping miter gauge, that's going to allow me to safely make this cut. And what you'll see when I put these two back together is going to be a beautiful cut, but in a minute I'm going to show you how to make that even better. All right, let's go ahead. Now, when I hold these two back together, that line will nearly disappear. It should look like it's, well, almost like it's not there, really. But here's the thing I want you to see with that setup. When I turn it this way, you can see the first corner of that shadow box picture frame. It's just that easy to do. Now, by holding it this way, you might be able to see the corner that would be a trim piece around the bottom of a grandfather clock, or if you're making your own custom bookcase. You know, Susan and I just finished a custom bookcase for our library, and our realtor told us something very interesting. She ended up telling us that that particular bookcase, and it's a large built-in bookcase, I'm going to show you in a little bit, added about $5,000 to the value of our home. They're very, very popular right now in high-end homes. Total materials in that bookcase was about $500. So, as you can see, a few projects with your Shopsmith Mark7, and you can very easily pay for the tool. All right, folks, what I'm going to show you next may be the single most important thing you're going to see here today, and that's how long, how difficult, or really how easy it is to change from one tool to the other. You know, I've been doing this a long time, and of course, I'm fairly quick at it, but what we always tell people, with a little bit of practice, you should be able to change from any one function to the other in under 60 seconds time. Now, most of us that do this all the time can do it in about 45 seconds. I'm going to do this in real time. If you happen to have a clock on the wall or a watch nearby, you might want to check this out. What I'm going to do is change from a 10-inch table saw to a 12-inch disc sander. And you're going to notice that the only tool that I use is the 5/32 Allen wrench. And of course, one of those comes standard with your Shopsmith Mark7. Now, to do the changeover, folks, what I want to do, first of all, it's highly recommended that you unplug the machine. For demonstration purposes here, I don't always do it, but I am very careful with what I do. Good idea to go ahead and unplug it. To change it over, I'm going to take off the upper saw guard, and I'm going to store this down here on my shelf, and that's something you can either make for yourself or you can get from Shopsmith. I'm going to rotate the table up and disconnect the dust collector. I slide the headstock over. Using my Allen wrench, I disconnect one set screw. Now folks, if you've ever taken a saw blade off of a typical table saw, You know, you usually use 2 arbor wrenches, a block of wood, and a mallet, and you have to beat that thing off, and you're lucky if you don't have busted knuckles by the time you're all done. That's it. No more to it than that. Then I take my 12-inch sanding disc and just reverse that process. And folks, that is really all there is to changing from any one tool to the other on your Shopsmith Mark V or Mark7 system. You know, I've left the angle set up here from my last operation, and there's an important reason. By the way, well, I'm done. If you were timing this, that's as long as it takes to do that changeover. But I've left my angle set up exactly the same. There's a reason for that. What you're going to see here, when I bring these back together, is because I've left the angles the same from one operation to the other, when I bring the piece of wood up to my sanding disc, it's going to be exactly the same setup, the same compound angle. And folks, you're going to notice by using my same setup for my table saw and my gripping miter gauge, I can perfectly duplicate the angle. And as you also see here, I am bringing the sanding disc to the wood. With most separate tools, not only would I have to try to duplicate that angle from one tool to the other, I would have to feed the wood in to the sander, which is very, very difficult to control. So with your Shopsmith, it just makes it easy to get those beautiful results. And folks, by using your fence as a stop, you can also sand every piece to the exact same length. And folks, let me show you real quickly how that's done. I have my disc sander set up with my main table. I have my fence just as a backstop, and I'm using my miter gauge to keep everything squared up. Of course, all these parts are built in and they all have stops on them, so everything is very easy to keep square. Now, what I'm doing here is bringing the disc over to the point that I want the length of my final piece to be, and I'm setting a stop. And by setting that, every piece will be sanded to the exact same length. And this makes life so much easier. You know, if you've ever tried to cut boards to a to the same length with any kind of a saw, and you've had it be just a hair off, even a 32nd or a 64th of an inch, you're going to be fighting it. But by using the sander for this, we're going to get those beautiful results every single time. You know, I used to say in my classes that consistency is more important than accuracy. And what I mean by that, let's say you're building a cabinet door, and every cabinet door is oversized by 32nd of an inch. Well, if they're all the same, it's all going to fit together and look just fine, as long as we don't have one over, one under, and have gaps or cracks. And the sander is the way to take care of that. I don't know of any other sander on the market that has this capability. Let me show you how this works. We'll go ahead and turn on our dust collector, excuse me, and just bring the sanding disc right up until it stops and can go no farther. And of course, because that wood is trapped in there, it's going to be exactly the right length. And you can use this on anything up to 60 inches long. And actually, you could go longer if you really needed to, but I can't imagine what that would be. It's a great feature, folks. Your glue joints will be stronger. That end piece will be perfectly smooth. It will be square in both directions, which is very important to us. And again, it's finished to the right length. So it's a wonderful feature of your Shopsmith system, the disc sander. And this can be used both for straight cuts and angle work. You know, when it comes time to pick the right speed for the operation, you can just go to the speed chart that's printed right on the front of the machine. But I want to show you how to fine-tune that. You can use your computer control, and let me run you through these controls real quickly, and you can just plug in for the exact speeds as you see here, or you can use your up and down buttons to very fine-tune this. Of course, you have your on and off button there. You have the lock button to keep other people out, the chart button, we'll talk about that. You have the confirm button, and you have the forward and reverse. Folks, this is going to take me longer to explain to you than it will you to learn how to do it. But it's very simple. For example, if I want to use the bandsaw, I hit the chart button and then confirm and run up through the different operations or accessories that I might want to use. Let's use the strip sander here for a minute, just to show you how much you can fine-tune this. What I'm setting this for is for aluminum oxide, 150 grit hardwood. Now, folks, there's no way in the world I would be able to keep all that information in my mind. But the computer has it all stored inside for me. So let's say I'm not getting the smoothness of the cut that I want, or I'm getting burning problems on there. This is how I can fine-tune it and make sure that I'm getting the exact right speed. Now remember, this is all reversible. So
After I've sanded it in the forward position, if I like, I can go ahead and reverse it and sand it in the reverse position, and that will give me the ultra fine smoothness that I really like to have on some of my projects. It's great for lathe work. There's the reverse on it. And anytime you change speeds like that, or anything that might be a safety issue, the machine will ask you to confirm it. Just keeps us out of trouble. On and off switch, very easy, of course, to work with. You have an on button, your off button, and there's the confirm button. And you can see how it's fluctuating there, the numbers just a little bit. That is because the computer is reading all the time, 400 times per second. It is sensing what the requirements are and adjust accordingly.
Now when you turn the machine off and back on again, the default position is 500 RPM forward, and that's a nice little safety feature so you can't accidentally start the machine at too high of a speed. So in this case, I'm going to start it up at the 500 RPM, and then I'm going to set it down to 250, and I just want you to see the visual of this. At 250 RPM, that machine is just creeping along, and especially good if you're doing large turnings or if you're drilling with very large drill bits into hardwoods, or perhaps you're drilling into steel, any kind of ferrous or non-ferrous metals. Having that speed range all the way from 250, which is what you're seeing now, all the way up to 10,000 is a tremendous advantage over the old Mark V, and certainly something unique in the woodworking world.
And because we have the right speed and the right torque, we can also handle metal work very easily with the Shopsmith Mark7. Now here I'm just taking and putting a nice edge on a little hand axe, but you can do this with your lathe chisels, your bench chisels, your plane irons, your knives, your lawnmower blades, and just about any kind of grinding metal work that you might want to do. And it's just an amazing advantage to be able to do multiple materials with one piece of equipment. And the Shopsmith can handle it just fine. So again, folks, capacity, safety, versatility, accuracy, all in your Shopsmith Mark7.
And folks, this is going to be a brief demonstration of turning a spindle. Now remember, I can turn all the way up to 34 inches long. Table legs are normally 30. What I've done here is mark the ends, mounted my piece of wood. I've got it ready to go. I always start off with a gouge. And just round the piece down. Smooth it off. You can work in either direction. Obviously you want to keep your chisel sharp, and you can check my videos on YouTube. What I'm doing now is putting a couple grooves in that spindle, and I'm going to take it down, scoop the wood out on either side of that little bead in the center, and then I'm coming back and undercutting it just to release the bead. And the reason we would do that really is mostly just for fun, just as a conversation piece. But remember, you can make toys and hobby and craft work with this, but you can do full-size pieces of furniture. And if you can do a small leg, you can do a large leg. There's only really 3 cuts you have to learn how to make. So spindles for cribs, cradles, 4-poster beds, staircase spindles, baseball bats, a lot of toys, hobby work, craft work, wooden whistles. There's just no limit to what you can do. And there's just something so enjoyable about turning on your Shopsmith Mark V. You know, and the best time to start thinking about making gifts for next Christmas is right after this Christmas. Gives you plenty of time to practice and get good at it. Salt shakers, pepper mills, know into, again, what you can do.
So folks, just a quick review. You get all the fun of the turning. You get the great features of that table saw. Nothing else like it on the market today. 8.5 feet of capacity, that big motor in there, the computer that runs everything. All those pieces you see are included. You get that disc sander, which is not like anything else on the market today, that lets you sand silky smooth, sand compound angles, do metal work with it, as I showed you before. There's just so many great things about the sander. Horizontal boring, folks, you'll be surprised how much you use that when you have it. Our owners tell us that all the time. And of course the great drill press, and there's so many features to that drill press, as I said. We could talk all day about that. And folks, that drill press, there's so many functions, and now with the new variable speed and power, you can also handle metal, plastic, glass, aluminum, and that's ferrous and non-ferrous for most any of your operations.
And of course, folks, in addition to the 5 tools that are built into the Mark V, you're now getting in the Mark 7 very high quality routing and shaping capabilities. And we're not looking at a little handheld lightweight tool here. This is something very heavy duty and lets you really put that beautiful professional looking finish on your projects. You know, folks, maybe you're like me and you've been looking at one of these for a long time and trying to decide whether or not to pull the trigger. I can tell you this, folks, that time goes by quickly, and I'm so glad that I've had the Mark V in my home and with my family for the last 25 years, and of course now it's the Mark 7. I don't think you're ever going to find a better time to get into one of these than right now. We have great prices going on for you right now. As always, fantastic tools, a company that is absolutely committed to customer service and all the new technology that we talked about here today. You know, and folks, even more important than technology is the fact that we here at Shopsmith have been helping woodworkers and their families build family heirlooms and memories together for nearly 5 generations. Thanks for watching today, folks. I appreciate your time, and I'll be back with you live in about 5 seconds.